Good morning, this is Robert with Pioneer Smokehouses, and today we're up at daylight so that way we can do a pork butt in our Weber Smokey Mountain cooker. Now, I went ahead and I already loaded everything up, and I went ahead and started the charcoal chimney before daylight so I could get everything going good. As soon as we had a chance, we could get it all started up. And now we have just enough light to go ahead and start. I'm going to go ahead and show you a couple of pictures first. Now, first thing that I did is I laid in my 4 blocks of wood. If you see in this picture here, I basically do an offset triangle. So one is just slightly to the side away from the input vent on the front, and then I form a triangle with the other 2, so that way they all burn at different times. Then I place one right in the center, which is the lighting position block, and I like to get that one going right off the bat. Then I fill the base of it with charcoal briquettes. Now, you don't have to do that, but I like the way that the briquettes fit into the bottom. Some people say that this cooker was designed to run on Kingsford charcoal. I don't know if I agree with that or not. I have better luck with small pieces of lump charcoal. So I'll sort out and take the big ones and pull it out and save those for one of the other cookers like the char griller, and use the small ones in this cooker. Now, putting the briquettes on the bottom creates a nice little layer. So after adding the extra grill grate on the bottom, those briquettes completely keep all of those small lumps from falling through. So then I pour a mix of what I have from the other briquettes. Now, when I'm done using this, I shut it all down and recover as much of the charcoal as I can that's not actually burned. Then I go ahead and fill it, and I dig the hole back out the center. So you can see here we have a nice little dimple right in the middle for this to go in. And this is burning really well. Now, a lot of times I use my questionable charcoal. So I have a saying, friends don't let friends buy Royal Oak. That's just me. If you've had better luck with it, that's great. I have not. But it does work really good using as a lighter in the charcoal chimney. And you can see here that that is going really well. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to kind of organize that a little bit. What I want is I want it to come towards the front and not the back. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but what I want is I want it to come and burn this way and then burn around both sides that way. The opening on the air inlet will do most of that for us, but this will ensure that it starts heading in that direction. You can see that that charcoal is burning really good, and that's something you want to always make sure when you're lighting any charcoal grill, that your lighting charcoal is hot and ready. Something else I want to point out, this is a little tip, is that I put my charcoal chimney on 2 little blocks, or else you can set it on a grill grate to make sure that you're getting the best airflow and circulation from underneath. So that way you will get that good light. This is going really well, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to assemble the smoker really quick here. So we have this all prepared, and I'll talk about this real quick. So first I'll set it down here. Line the door up with the bottom vent so that way we can access it. If we do end up needing to add more charcoal near the end, I don't want to take this apart. I just want to be able to reach in there from the front. And usually what will happen is that if I add more charcoal, I'll add it directly to the center of the smoker by pulling the ashes away, and there'll be fire at the back, and then it'll just continue to burn. So I don't want to do that if I don't have to. Here we have a grill mat that I like to set in here, and then I have a probe thermometer that I have fed through, and I'm going to put this as far off to the side as possible because we need as much room for our pork butt as we can get, but I don't want it right in the middle. I've fed through this one through the bottom hole here because it can get through easily, and then this probe, I have it just sitting in here through the hole so I can get an inside air temperature. And this is my thermometer right here, and you can see it's already running. And this one here is for the one that's going through to give us our air temperature, and this one here gives us our grill temperature. And you just know by which wire you put where. This does have a magnet on the back, but the problem with this is it gets too hot for it. So unless you have another place to put it, I either set it on a small chair or a block out here, and then I can just keep an eye on it outside of the heat zone. Those are not like high temperature safe. Now I'm gonna go ahead and put this on there and let that go ahead and come up to temperature. While we're doing that, the front vent is completely open and the back vent is completely open. And what'll happen is that'll create the airflow that we need. We're getting 150 on this gauge, and this gauge is pretty well set. Again, you have to learn your gauges and know what the offset is for what your actual cooking temperature is. On the surface down below, I'm getting 162. So there's a temperature difference of 10 degrees here. What's even funnier is that I'm down lower at 175 down here. So there is a little bit of a temperature difference. Now, if I close this down a little bit, what's going to happen is that the heat will flow out slower and you'll get a more even temperature in there. Also, it will slow down your burning. Now, when I close these at first to adjust my temperature, I like to close them together so they both come down at the same time. Now, we're not at our target temperature. We want to be somewhere around 250, and we have a long ways to go to get there. So I'm going to go ahead and open this back up so that way this thing will burn at full power. So let's take a break, and while we're taking a break, I'm going to go put the seasoning on the pork butt. I don't like to pre-season with salt ahead of time, especially with a pork. I would just like to season it and go. If you're going to use a marinade or something without salt, you can do it for a few hours. If you're going to use a brine, you want to do it for at least 12 hours so it has a chance for osmosis to work to pull all the liquid out and then to put the liquid back in. If you do it in between, like if you put a salty brine on for a couple of hours, you'll end up with dry meat. And sometimes with something like pork where it's pretty fatty, that can still work out just fine, but I don't like to add any extra salt to pork. So I'll be right back. I have the pork butt all seasoned up, and I'll show you a couple of pictures really quick. This is technically considered a Boston butt or a pork shoulder because of how it's laid out. It's not the actual butt. So I'm going to set this down, and then you can see here that I went ahead and just opened it up and I put an even layer of garlic granules on the top and bottom and an even layer of Guerra's seasoning. I'll put a link for that down there, and I say it all wrong all the time, but it's a Hispanic style seasoning that I've used before. I met the gentleman that makes it and his family at a trade show, and I bought some from him, and it's really good. I think it really excels on pork. I tried it on the ribs and it was really good, and some other things, and you might check the channel and see a couple of the other things that I used it to cook on. It has a good flavor, and every time I think that I have enough, I don't. It's not spicy hot at all, and so you might consider adding something like a cayenne pepper to it to give it a little bit of a kick. For pork, I always just add a garlic granule with whatever else I'm doing. So with my normal rub, which is the 3211, there is garlic in it, but I almost want to double that garlic to make it like a 3411. And with this, we just got it covered as we need. Now, the smoker is showing a little over 200 on the temperature gauge here, and we're showing down here at the cooking surfaces at 217. We've got a long ways to go, but we're fine to go ahead and throw the pork on there. We just need it to be right around 225 to start cooking. I'll go ahead and open this up, and you can see all that smoke just piling off of there. That's going to be great for flavor. Now I already have the grill mat on there, and I'm going to just slide that out on there. I'm trying not to mess up too much of the seasoning, because every time you put your thumb in the seasoning, it kind of gets messed up. And then I have a little scrap that I cut off, and I'm just going to season that on the board here and throw it on the edge next to the thermometer. It'll help keep the grill mat down, and also it'll make a nice little snack in a couple hours, and then I'll really know where the flavor profile is. I'm going to go ahead and get this lid back on here so the thing will start functioning properly again. Now, if you're not getting heated up as fast as you would like, you could consider using one of the two methods that I do, and one is either a hair dryer or the other is a yard blower to add air. That will punch the temperature up really fast. So let me go ahead and grab the yard blower. First thing I'm going to tell you is that my preferred method is actually the hair dryer. I set it on low with low heat. Then I can blow hot air directly into the vent intake of the Weber Smokey Mountain cooker. Today we're going to use this because I don't want to run the extension cords all the way over here for right now. Going to take this down to the very bottom, and I'm going to slowly squeeze the trigger. We don't want to squeeze it too fast or we'll put ash all over the place, and even with the separation and the water pan in there, that much ash will still get all over our food and all over the insides of the grates. Now we're pushing up to above 250 now on the gauge, which is exactly what we were going for, and we got there in a hurry. Now the temperature at the cooking level appears to be about 235 from that probe, and in the middle of the smoker it's at 266. So that means that we will be really close really fast to our temperature. Our target temperature today is 275. We want to be able to cook this piece of meat in about 10 hours. We need it to be long enough that all of the connective tissue breaks down, but short enough that it's ready for dinner. If this cook were something that I was not going to film, then I would have started it about 2 or 3 hours earlier and kept the temperature down a little bit lower. I would have just wrote it in the 235 to 245 range, and then as soon as it was done, whatever time that may be, I would rest it. I want to be able to rest this thing for at least 30 minutes after it's done, just so that way the juices and the temperature evens out and the carryover cooking stops. When you go ahead and take it to rest, you'll have carryover cooking depending on the size of your meat because of thermal mass. Depends on how long that carryover cooking lasts. If you pull it out and you cut it right away, you're going to have a differential in the temperature. On the outside edge will be hotter than what it is in the center, and we'd like it to even out. Like I said, it helps to spread the juice evenly throughout the meat, but also it's just a better experience to have one temperature for your whole piece of meat. So I'm going to go ahead and let this run for a while, and I'll babysit it and make sure that it's above 250. My target temperature again is 275, but if it's a little under that, I'll be just happy with that and it won't make any difference. We won't be back probably for me, maybe 4 hours. For you, that'll just be a couple seconds. So we have come back a little early, and the reason I wanted to get this segment on here is because I wanted you to see how cleanly this smoker is burning. The gauge up here is slightly above 250, and my probe thermometer is reading 271 on the cooking surface and 289 in the chamber. Now, the target was not to go above 275, so this is absolutely perfect. If you look here, we're not getting any smoke out of here. This smoker burns so clean. If you get it going good and you use a good grade of charcoal, it just burns right through and you don't have any bitter smoke at all. If you wanted to add a little smoke to it, I would just throw a handful of wood chips right in on top of wherever the charcoal is burning, and it will start smoldering and probably burn up within a minute or two. I'm not going to do that. We're going to keep on rolling, and I will talk to you in another couple of seconds. For me, that'll be 2 more hours. We are on the 4 full hour cook mark. So the smoker's been running for a little more than 5 hours, and the food has been in there for about a little bit more than 4 hours. This is the little piece that I cut off the edge when I was trimming up the pork butt there. And I pulled that out. I'm going to go ahead and pop that picture up there for you so you can see what it looks like inside here. I went ahead and opened it. We were pushing the 176, 178 range, which was higher than what I wanted to. So we're going to back down the temperature just a little bit, but by opening it, I went ahead and evacuated the temperature quickly, and then I'll be able to adjust it back down a little bit. First, let's go ahead and give this a little try. So this piece is extremely crispy, and there was a little bit of bone on the edge. So you gotta be careful when I'm chewing it. Taste is really good. Like I said, this piece is extremely crispy, so it's gonna be kind of hard. Something to note is that with the crust forming so much on this piece here, of course, that's not, you know, indicative of the whole thing, but this tells me that the crust is gonna form at this temperature on the whole thing, which means that I'm gonna wanna wrap it at some point. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish this, and I'll be right back. That was a tasty little morsel, and it gave me a really good idea where we are on the seasoning. The seasoning might have been a little bit higher on that, plus the ratio of unseasoned meat to seasoned meat is a little bit more on that small piece. I'm gonna go ahead and back the top down just a little bit. Be careful when doing this because this can be really hot. So if you need to, use your charcoal tongs or a glove. It's kind of right on the edge for me, so I'm okay with it. And so I back that down a little bit. And now I'm going to go ahead and back down this bottom one. When closing this down, you need to make sure that you leave it open just a little bit. And I like to call it a pencil width. So if you put a pencil in there, you could close it down, and then that's how much air that this fire needs on minimum to keep running good. We're going to go ahead and keep an eye on this for the next few minutes since I've turned it down a little bit, and hopefully it'll come down. And then we're going to transfer one of the probes into the meat so that way we can get a really good idea of what kind of cooking temperature we're getting inside the pork butt. So I went ahead and took an internal temperature, and we are at 165, which is perfect for the next step. I like to wrap anything that has a hard crust on it right around 160 to 165. That counts for brisket, which that's kind of right where it enters. That's kind of right about where it enters the stall. So what I've done here is I have a cookie sheet and I have a piece of foil that's about twice the size as a cookie sheet, and that'll be plenty for this pork butt. If you're concerned about it blowing away, just put a little bit of water in the middle of the pan, and then your foil will stick to it. We have very little wind today, so I'm not too worried about it. I lowered the temperature a little bit by closing the vents up, but I went ahead and opened them just before I started the camera, so that way we can get the temperature back up real fast after we put it back on. And you can take a look at this and you can see how great it looks. Nice color, all nice and brown. I'm going to go ahead and pull this off and just set it to the side for a minute. Then I'm going to lift this right by the grill mat and flip it right out. Usually the grill mats stick to the bottom just a little bit, and you can see it did stick a touch, but not too bad. Now this, I'll take it and scrub it in the sink real quick and throw it in the dishwasher and be done with it. Do want to make sure that the grill grate is free of debris. You can do this, or you can do a wire brush if you want, or even a ball of tin foil works really well. A lot of people talk about the bristles on the wire brush falling off, and then they can get in your throat if you eat one. Be really careful if you use a wire brush. I recommend coil brushes, and I do have an article for that on my website, so you can check that out. I'm going to go ahead and center this a little bit. I'm going to take the first piece over like that, and then push down on the top, hold it closed, and then come back over. Nothing super special about that. I just want to get it wrapped nice. Then I'm going to set it down on here and make sure that you don't slide it around. And now, if this is still hot, make sure you use a glove because the metal can get really hot. This will be okay. And then we want to put it in. Make sure you don't touch a bone. Right about there in the middle. The current temperature at the thermometer probe is 165. Here is the temperature of the container right in here at 217, 219. I think it's going to climb a little bit. We are seeing some smoke come through because as we give it extra oxygen, it'll speed up a little bit, and that might be one of the pieces of wood igniting. And that's kind of one of those things that spreading the pieces of wood out, they will ignite from time to time, and you'll get some browner or almost white smoke instead of the clear smoke like you're used to. We're going to go ahead and watch this through for a minute. I will take a look inside there and inspect it to make sure everything looks like it's burning fine, but the temperature is doing exactly what we expect it to do, so we should be good. I will slowly put those vents back to where they were as the temperature starts to get closer to where our cooking temperature is. We want to hold it at about 250 now. We don't want to go up into the 270 range because we're getting really close to the temperature where we want, and we've got plenty of time. I just need it done about an hour before dinner so we can get a good rest on it. So I'll go ahead and watch that, and that'll be about maybe 3 more hours for me, but it'll only be 1 second for you. I'll be right back. We are back, and we just broke 200 degrees internal temperature, which is just a little bit higher than what I was going for, but I think we'll be just fine with pork shoulder. Now, I don't like my meat mushy, and so when I'm doing things like brisket, I tend to pull it a little bit sooner. But again, with pork shoulder, because it's kind of forgiving because of how much fat there is, I don't think it'll matter. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull this out, and I'm going to use my glove just because I don't want to burn myself. Pulled out really easy. I'm going to push it back in one more time just to get a tenderness feel. You can just use that to feel it, and if it's about as soft as peanut butter, or depends on your consistency, I like mine just a touch firmer, but if it's soft as peanut butter, then you know you're ready. So now I have a bath towel here, and I have a cooler with a leaf in it. So I'm just going to take this bath towel and I'm going to put it on my cookie sheet. Now I'm not going to flip this over because I have this hole here that I'm trying to not leak out of. So I set it down there. This is a garbage bath towel, so don't use your wife's best white bath towel or you'll probably end up in lots of trouble. Just like I did with the foil, and put it on there. I'm going to fold both ends over. I'm going to come over. Now I'm just trying to cover the top really well, and then I'm going to go ahead and set it in here and close the lid. Now, if you're planning on leaving it for a long time, then I recommend that you throw a couple more towels just in there on top, and or even one towel on the bottom and then a couple on top to give it that extra protection. If you have some bats of insulation, that's also a good way to go. You can throw a couple of those in there, but remember, you don't want insulation on your food. And they will keep your pork butt or brisket or whatever you're trying to rest in really good shape. So we're going to go ahead and take a 30-minute break, and then I'll go ahead and cut into that for you. So the wait is over. First thing I'm going to do is I opened up the vents before I started the rest time. So I'm going to go ahead and close both of them all the way. The reason I'm doing that is to put out the charcoal. If the charcoal goes out, then I'll be able to get rid of the ash and sort what leftover charcoal I have and use it for the next time. I'll basically put it as the top layer on my charcoal bed, just like what I did today. I like to be a little thrifty, so we like to conserve everywhere we can, and that's one spot we can do that. When I opened up the cooler, a burst of hot air came out, which means that this is still nice and hot. Now this foil is really hot, and so is the pork roast. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my gloves on. The reason I use the cookie sheet is so that way I don't get the juice everywhere, and I'm going to dump this juice right out here, and you're going to see how much juice is coming out of this. Of course, if you have something you want to use the juice for, you've captured it right there, and you're more than welcome to do whatever you want with it. I typically don't use it for anything, but if I'm going to do pulled pork, then I'll add that juice back into the pot. When I do pulled pork, I usually do it in a crock pot. I'll add that juice, a touch of beef broth, and then a cup of barbecue sauce. Boy, that looks good. I'm going to just roll it out here onto the cutting board. Roll that up and get rid of it. Now you can just grab the bone and pull it right out of there just like that. That's a real good sign. This is my slicing knife for meat. Works great for roast, and my favorite thing to use it for is brisket. Get the loose ends off of there. I'm just going to hold this out for you today and try not to drop it. You can see around the edges you've got all the color, which is a smoke ring. This piece looks really good. Wow, that is tasty. And you just pull that apart like that, and it just comes apart so soft. This is perfect for pulled pork, and it has great taste. Now the inside doesn't have a lot of extra flavor added. But the outside has the seasoning. That is awesome. I'm going to get one more bite here before I go. Get it right there. Want to get a little bit of the pork with the skin there that's all seasoned up. That's good. So right there was a small layer of fat, and it is completely rendered out. So It's not fatty at all. It just has that little layer of skin there, and turned out perfect. I'm gonna go ahead and cut through this. One more slice for you to take a look at. And look at that. That's beautiful. I like to say that the Weber Smokey Mountain cooker is the champion at pork butt or pork shoulder. And this is an example of exactly what this thing can do. I didn't have to play with it a lot. Once I got the temperature dialed in, I could just walk away for hours. That's what I like about this thing. Even though it is a manual smoker, I can set those vents and forget about it. So, thanks for watching. If you saw anything in the video that you like the smoker or my favorite slicing knife, there'll be links below. Those are affiliate links. I will get compensated for those, but it won't cost you a thing. So again, thank you and have a great day.